In this video, I'm going to take you through my full client process from the moment someone reaches out to me all the way through to final project handoff. And I'm not just going to give you the surface level stuff, but I'm going to be doing a complete breakdown of the exact system, tools, and frameworks I use in order to deliver a seamless experience for all of my web design clients. Now, this exact process has taken me a long time to refine. Over the years, I've made a lot of mistakes, such as clients ghosting me, scope creep leading to the project taking longer than planned, and miscommunication, which leads to just endless revision cycles. But today I'm going to show you how I've managed to overcome that with a 10-stage framework, and we're going to be breaking it down in detail. So if you're a designer just looking to streamline your workflow, or perhaps you're curious about the web design process, then stick around because this video is for you. Okay, so everything starts at the inquiry stage. Someone fills out my contact form or they send me a message because they want to work with me. And this is where a lot of designers go wrong because they often just say yes to everything, but I don't. At this stage, I'm evaluating 3 critical areas. The first one is budget. Does this client have a realistic budget for the level of work that they're actually asking for? If someone wants a full website design, but they don't actually have the budget for it, then we're not aligned. And that is okay with me because I'd rather let them know upfront than waste both of our time. The second is, do their business values align with my own? I personally don't work in certain industries because it's not where I have a lot of knowledge. And so that is a boundary for me. The third one is service alignment. Can I actually deliver what they need? If they need a complex app or something that requires a bit more back-end development, then I'm not the right fit. It's better for me to refer them to someone who does align than to take on a project that I know I'm going to struggle with or that I know I cannot deliver. The key thing to remember at this stage is that I'm qualifying them as much as they're qualifying me, because at the end of the day, this is a partnership, it's not a transaction. Once I've determined that they are actually a good fit, we then schedule a discovery call. Now, this is usually 30 to 45 minutes where we get to find out a bit more about the business and the project that they want. I usually come prepared with a few specific questions, such as what's driving the project right now? Why is now the right time to start the project? What does their target audience look like? Do they know? What does success look like for this project? Do they have an existing brand or existing assets that we need to use, or are we starting from scratch? What does their timeline look like for this project? But here's the thing, I'm also paying attention to how they respond. Are they responsive? Are they collaborative? Are they organized? Do they have a clear vision for this project? Or are they still just trying to figure it out as they go along? Now, this gives me an insight into what the rest of this project is actually going to work with. At this point, I'm also looking for some key red flags because I don't want to be stuck in a project that I'm going to dread every step of the way. Some red flags for me personally: do they mention something like wanting constant feedback? If they ask me for my contact details, my personal contact details, those are red flags because it shows me that these clients are a bit micromanaging, and I personally don't like to work with clients that want to micromanage me at every step of the design process. So at this point, the vibe check actually matters, and if something feels off, then this is where I trust my gut, because I'd rather say goodbye at this point than invest time and energy and waste both of our time and both of our money, right? Not every client is right, and that is also okay. After the discovery call, if we're both excited to move forward with the project, I then move on to creating a comprehensive project proposal. Now, this isn't just a generic template that I send to everyone. I customize the proposal according to everything that was discussed during the discovery process. The proposal includes things such as an introduction section, introducing and establishing me as the designer, and establishing credibility. This is also an opportunity for me to remind them why they picked me in the first place. The next is the project objectives. Now, this is critical because it shows the client that I listened to everything that came up during the call, and it helps me reiterate their goal in my own words so that they feel heard and understood. The next is key deliverables. So I break down exactly what they're getting. Is it a 5-page website? Is it a brand identity package? Do we have custom illustrations? And at this point, I'm very specific because I don't want to leave anything unclear about what they're going to be getting from me. Vague deliverables often lead to scope creep later. I also present timelines. I give them realistic timeframes for each phase of the project, and this helps manage expectations from the get-go. I also give them a breakdown of exactly what the project costs are, so what their investment is, as well as the next steps so that we can actually kick off the project together. So once a client has had time to review the proposal and they've accepted it and they're happy to move forward, this is when we move on to the next phase. This is where things start to become official. So once they've accepted the proposal, I then go into Notion and I set up their client portal for them. The portal is their central hub to everything related to the project, and inside it they'll find their contract with clear terms and conditions that protect both of us, the payment timeline, project timeline, as well as an in-depth kickoff questionnaire, which is a deep dive to gather all the information that I need to hit the ground running on their project. They can also find all the project presentations and files as the project progresses in their portal. So everything gets uploaded here. On top of the client portal, I also include 2 additional tools. One is a Google Drive folder. This is where all of the client's assets and files that are shared between the two of us throughout the duration of the project get stored. I do this because Notion sometimes includes a file limit, and I want to make sure that I have one shared location for all of the assets so nothing gets lost in communication. The second is I set up a dedicated Slack channel for each of my clients. A lot of the clients I work with have multiple key decision makers, and I want to make sure that everyone feels involved and everyone is collaborating in one central location. Having one dedicated channel in Slack allows everyone from my team as well as from their team to communicate in one central location, ensuring that there's full transparency and no miscommunication. Before I start any design work, I also require a 50% deposit paid upfront. Now this ensures that the client's spot is secured and we lock in their project timeline. Now once the deposit has been paid and we've locked in the project start date, I then move on to the first phase of the actual project, which is the strategy and creative direction. Now this is one of my favorite phases because this is where we start to lay down the strategic foundation for everything that comes next. For web design projects specifically, I never jump straight into designing pages because we need to understand why are we trying to build this website and what it is we're trying to achieve. I always start with a collaborative strategy session, which is usually held in FigJam because it's one workspace that's visual, interactive, and everyone can collaborate. And in this strategy session, we're trying to identify things such as who is their target audience and what are their target audience's pain points? What are the business goals? What does the competitive landscape look like? I also have them complete the discovery questionnaire ahead of time. This allows me to go into the session prepared with questions. Then within a week, I then deliver a creative direction presentation. This is a comprehensive deck that includes the brand messaging, the messaging framework, value proposition, a breakdown of their target audience, their core values, as well as the visual direction. For the visual direction, I present 2 distinct mood boards. Each mood board includes imagery, colors, typography samples, and an overall visual direction. It helps us align on the visual language before I even start designing a pixel. And because these are web design projects, I also include a sitemap, an information architecture, as well as an SEO strategy and a best practice analysis. Now at this stage, the client can request a revision. If we're not aligned on strategy, then the entire project direction is going to fail. And I'd rather spend time making sure that we're on the same page and that the strategy and the vision aligns rather than redesigning screens later. Once a client has picked a mood board and we have a clear starting point for our visual direction, I then move on to the design phase. For my design phase, I start off with low fidelity wireframes. Now, this is something that the client will never see. This is purely for me to work out the structure and the layout and the overall content hierarchy without getting distracted by the colors and the imagery. Once I have my low fidelity wireframes done, I then move on to mid fidelity wireframes, which is just a general outline of the overall content and layout. This is the first phase that the client reviews so that they have a better idea of how their website is going to look and feel, as well as how it's going to flow. I also include arrows and annotations highlighting the customer journey in this process. Once the mid-fidelity wireframes are approved and the client has signed off on it, I then move on to polishing up high-fidelity wireframes. I go all in on the final designs. These simulate the real actual website that we will be implementing. Every pixel is intentional and every interaction is considered. I then take these final wireframes, and before I send it off for revision to the client, I prototype it. I then link everything together and I make sure that the client can click through it as if it's a real website and they are the customer. Now, this is crucial for communicating transitions and key interactions so that the client can make any final changes to the design or to any interactions before we actually start implementing it. I package everything into a guided presentation so that the client knows how to leave structured feedback. I also provide a feedback guideline which eliminates confusion and ensures that we're actually collecting valuable and actionable feedback and not just vague comments like make it pop. So once the client has reviewed the designs and they've clicked through the prototype, now it's time for them to actually provide the feedback to me. In this phase, I allow between 3 to 5 days for each revision cycle. I want clients to consolidate their feedback all at once rather than giving me bits and pieces here and there, and it's unstructured and conflicts with the rest of the decision makers. The feedback is submitted through a detailed questionnaire in Notion, and I ask specific questions such as what actions need changes or which sections need changes, what specifically isn't working for you, and do you have any visual references for what you're envisioning. This structured approach prevents vague feedback and also helps me understand why they are requesting those changes. At this stage, each client gets 2 revisions in every package that I offer them. I found that this is the sweet spot because 1 round generally isn't enough, but 3 or more revisions often mean that we were misaligned a lot earlier in the process. After I receive the feedback, I review it and I confirm that I understand what are the changes that they're requesting, and then I go and implement the changes. Once the client has officially signed off on the designs, I can then move on to implementation. This is where the design becomes real and we build a functioning website. I typically work with Framer, WordPress, or Wix, depending on what the client needs and what makes sense for their technical skill level, as well as for their long-term maintenance. If the client doesn't have a domain, I generally assist with helping them purchase one and getting it set up. But if they already have one, then I just obtain the DNS settings and then I make sure to connect the website to their domain. I personally test every website across all device sizes on mobile and desktop to make sure that the design is responsive. I also use tools such as PageSpeed Insights to make sure that we are optimizing the website performance, as well as making sure that our SEO is optimized. I also make sure that the client's website is set up with Google Analytics and Google Search Console to make sure that their website is indexed properly and that they can track analytics in the long run. Now at this stage, we've made it to the finish line, but we haven't yet signed off completely. So once the client has reviewed the design and they've tested it and made sure that we didn't miss anything, before we actually publish it, we actually start preparing for offboarding. Before I hand anything over, I then expect the final 50% payment to be paid in full. Once it's paid, I then proceed over to the final stage, which is offboarding and handoff. Now, the offboarding process looks a bit different depending on which package the client chose. If it's a once-off project, I package everything the client's going to need going forward, which includes all their design files. I export all their assets in high resolution form. I document how to access and edit their website. I also provide a detailed design guideline, which covers things such as image sizes for banners, font packages, links, color codes, button styles. It's essentially a mini brand guide / design systems, so that if they hire someone else later on, then that person can still stay on brand. And for clients who choose ongoing maintenance where I maintain their website long term, they move over to a monthly retainer service. I still package everything for them, but I also include a step-by-step guide on how to request support and design changes going forward. Now, this is where that Slack channel comes handy, because this is how we are going to be communicating going forward for any design changes that do come. Regardless of which path they choose, every client gets a final handoff package, which includes tips for maintaining their website, tips and resources for SEO, content creation, and marketing, a guide on how to leave a review for us, as well as information on how to work with me again in the future if they need any updates or additional services. All of this gets uploaded to their portal, and like that, their project is officially complete. Now, the entire process for this project, from inquiry all the way to handoff, typically takes between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the scope of the project and how quickly a client can provide feedback. So there you have it, my full client process from start to finish for web design projects. Now, I know it might seem like a lot, but every single stage of this process exists for a reason. And this process has saved me tons of time and has also saved me from scope creep, miscommunication, as well as burnout. This really allows me to deliver exceptional work while maintaining healthy boundaries and protecting myself. And if you're a designer and you don't have a system like this yet, I highly encourage you to take the time to find out what works for you, what can be repeatable, and where can you save time. You don't have to do everything at once. I recommend you slowly start to implement processes at each stage one by one and see what works for you. Now, if you'd be interested in me packaging all of this into one comprehensive course that includes all of my templates as well as a step-by-step detailed guide on how to implement this for your business, then let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this video has helped you think about your own client process. If it did, be sure to like and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.